Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. It is Room 442. James Sharman here with Mikey Singh. Lots to get to today. Big weekend of football, actually. It's headlines, of course, and we'll try and pick through the biggest headlines. Although there's so many, we'll never get to them all. We've got all week, though, to cover them, so I'm not too concerned about it. But I'll start things off right from Sky News. Manchester City serenades to Elton John at airport after FA Cup final win. Now, I could have gone with numerous headlines for City beating United in the FA Cup final, but this I found really amusing. There was Sir Elton hugging every single City player, and then they were singing your song.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great serenade, in fairness. It wasn't great, but still, what a win for City. Now, I know you're a United fan. I know you probably weren't very happy in that match, but quite honestly, City bossed that game, I thought, and could have been more than it was in the end. Fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, we knew that the game would kind of go that way heading into the match. We knew that United were going to concede possession. We knew that they'd try to hit City off the counter, but City did such a great job at just mitigating all of United's threats moving forward. The only goal that United scored came off a penalty, which really, if it went through, the ball didn't strike the hand of Jack Grealish. Probably not doing too much damage, so a bit of a break United caught to get on the score sheet. Heading into this one, I seen the starting 11. I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit because Victor Lindelof is in the 11. And when you look back at what Manchester United did to Manchester City back in January in order to get the win, they paired Luke Shaw and Varane there in the heart of defense, and that worked really effectively. But Ten Hag decided to go with Lindelof, who, to be fair, has been in pretty decent form heading into this game, but 10 seconds into the game, he got exposed, and he was caught sleeping, which ultimately led to Gundogan's wonder strike, I think we can call it, because what a golazo it was. And that, I will give United credit. They did battle back from that point on, kind of grew into the game throughout the first half, but then the second half came around, and that's when I think City just stepped it up completely. And Kyle Walker, Akanji, those guys at the back were crucial for City in this win, and of course Gundogan and De Bruyne as well.
Yeah, I mean, Gundogan, just brilliant. I mean, you mentioned that goal 13 seconds into the match. No one's ready for it apart from him. The commentators weren't ready, the fans weren't ready, certainly United weren't ready.
De Gea wasn't ready.
De Gea wasn't ready, yeah. You wonder about De Gea. I mean, not a great game for De Gea overall. Do you think that affects his contract status? He's a free agent. He wants to stay there. But as a United fan, someone that watches United very closely, is he someone that should be your number one moving forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it depends on who the replacement is. Is he good enough to be a number one goalkeeper? Yeah, I think he is good enough to be a number one goalkeeper. Is he good enough to be a number one goalkeeper on a side that wants to be considered the best side in the world or among the best sides in the world? That I'm not too sure about anymore. De Gea has his moments where the spectacular saves after spectacular saves. Heck, he won the most clean sheets in the Premier League.
Yeah, it surprised me
this
that
season.
when I saw that.
Yeah, no, he's a really good goalkeeper. The thing with De Gea is, well, one, he's prone to that big gaffe, that big error, which comes at pretty some unfortunate times. But also, what's been really, I think, highlighted or exposed this season about De Gea is just how poor he is with his feet. And with the way the game is evolving and the way the game is moving, and you look at teams like Brighton and, of course, Manchester City, and you look at how good their goalkeepers are with their feet, you'd almost need that out of a goalkeeper when you're trying to play at the highest level, and especially the way that I think Erik ten Hag wants to play. So those are the two things that I think is going to work against De Gea, and based on some of the comments Ten Hag was saying leading up to the match, not even during this match or after this match, it sounds like David De Gea is not a foregone conclusion to be Manchester United's number one keeper this season. That being said, both parties do seem interested in extending De Gea's stay, and I think De Gea's understanding of the fact that there's going to be more competition at that position next season.
And don't forget Dean Henderson on loan at Nottingham Forest, back with United this summer as well. Highly touted when they signed him, so that should be one to watch for sure. But here we are, a few days away from the Champions League final. City into Milan. From what you saw on Saturday, any reason to think that City won't win this?
No, I can't. No, it's the way that City bossed the game against a Manchester United team that, again, has been good this season. I'd argue they're, You put them up 1-on-1 against Inter Milan, you're going to find a really good match between those two sides. So I would say they're pretty even. In that regard, I think Inter Milan's going to want to do the same type of thing that Manchester United tried to do against Manchester City, which is essentially sit back, concede possession, and then try to hit them on the counter. But Man City's just shown that the way that they've grown and the way that they're playing right now, it's oozing confidence. The poise that they have to find an extra second, 2 seconds on the ball in tight spaces, tight areas, they do that 1 through 11 on their squad. So I have no reason to believe the fact that the way that Man City's playing, the way that they're in form, the way that they're hitting their stride, they've hit their stride and then some, I think. So I have no reason to believe why they won't be able to get the job done against Inter Milan, and I think they're going to become the second team in English club history, at least, to win a continental treble. I
think so, yeah. Okay, your headline, Mikey. Benzema bombshell leaves Madrid's transfer plans in tatters. This one courtesy Goal, but of course it's all over the football media. He's off to Saudi Arabia by the looks of things. Bit of a legend at Real Madrid now. He's chasing the money in his final years, it seems.
Yeah, I can't blame him for that. The reported deal is $643 million to Al-Ittihad. And of course, I think, first of all, the amount, ludicrous. That's actually $1 million more per year than the reported amount that Cristiano Ronaldo is
He won't be happy about it, Mikey, will he?
And it's the team that Ronaldo lost the title
Championship
to, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's intentional almost.
Of course
to pay
it is.
him $1 million more.
Of course it is. It's to rub it in, stir the pot a little bit, and get Ronaldo back to the negotiating table.
So it's apparently a 3-year contract. And I do wonder, though, as good as Benzema has been this season alone, 31 goals in 43 matches, last season, Ballon d'Or. As good as he is, though, is he the type of player that you think a club in Saudi should be investing that much money into, 3 years, that much time into? Is he that category? Is he Messi, Ronaldo? I don't think so either.
He's old. And I know so's Ronaldo, so's Messi, but they're a different level. Benzema, wonderful player, but he's a number 9, essentially, right? He needs service more so than the other guys you mentioned there. It's a lot of money. Has he got the global appeal as well that those two guys have? I know he's won the Ballon d'Or, but I think he's kind of the footballer's footballer in many ways. He's not as flash as other players, but he's just so intelligent that if you watch the game closely, you can really appreciate Karim Benzema. But yeah, he's not the guy to make too many highlight reels apart from scoring big goals, but not maybe great goals, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's a finisher, right? And I think his link-up play is a little bit underrated, but I agree. Like, he's not the type of guy that would beat 1, 2, 3 types of players, not do step overs, not do all the flashy
fun
stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of this deal, like, usually it's marketing, right? Cristiano Ronaldo went to Saudi because of the amount of buzz it would have drawn into that league, and it has done a pretty decent job of doing that so far. We're all learning a lot more about Saudi leagues. I'm not sure if Karim Benzema...
I don't say I'm learning much about it. I'm not watching it. Are you watching it?
No, but you're learning. You know more about it than I'm sure you did before Ronaldo.
I know that Ronaldo plays there. Messi plays there.
Messi doesn't.
Almost.
Maybe.
Shouldn't have said that.
That one slipped out. So this also got me thinking, like you mentioned, Benzema, legend. Yeah. Number 9 shirt for Real Madrid. Most coveted shirt maybe in world football. And he's a guy that lived up to that expectation for sure. And, the reason why he doesn't have some of that appeal maybe is because he's playing in the shadow of some of the biggest stars in the world that played for Real Madrid. Obviously, the Cristiano Ronaldos of the world, and even before that, like Gonzalo Higuain was there at Real Madrid, and it was Higuain or Benzema. And I think even Higuain was starting ahead of Benzema, if I can think back correctly.
That's a controversy, of course, a scandal that derailed his international career.
Benzema's,
yeah.
So I think he's done a great job, and I don't blame him whatsoever for heading this route at this point in his career. I guess the next question for me is, who's next to sport that number 9 shirt for Real Madrid?
Well, it opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it? Does Harry Kane now get some offers? If you're Real Madrid, it makes a lot of sense. You're in win now if you're Real Madrid, right? You're not rebuilding because you're losing Benzema. You still have pretty much the same team next year. I know Modric has been mentioned about potentially moving to Saudi Arabia, but I think he's going to re-sign. Toni Kroos has re-signed. You're in win now. and a Harry Kane would be the perfect choice. Now, there's always going to be the Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah.
Another elephant
That's
in the room,
another
right? Now, he apparently is happier at PSG, but here we are now, June the 5th? By June the 6th, that could be something completely different, right? I mean, the way their season ended in particular. But it's interesting, yeah, we'll watch that market. Maybe a guy that would have fit there really well once upon a time is my next headline, and that is, I say goodbye to football. Emotional Zlatan Ibrahimovic ends career at 41. Ibra, the memories. What a career, 22 years he played, 9 different clubs, 14 league crowns, including international, over 500 goals, of course, the 500th we saw in Toronto with that beautiful goal against TFC when he was with LA. Listen, I don't know if there's a player I'm going to miss more. I know, listen, he's in his 40s now. We haven't seen much of him in the last couple of years in the Serie A, but has there been a bigger character, a bigger personality, not just in world soccer, but in world sport? I'm not sure there has been in recent memory, maybe ever.
No, Ted Lasso made a whole character about
Zava, terrible storyline, by the way. I didn't buy it one bit. Loved Ted Lasso, but it went away pretty quickly.
It went away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It went away pretty quickly. But no, you're right. Like some of his most famous quotes, of course, I came like a king. I left like a legend. That's when he left.
You're welcome.
That's when he left PSG. He
Yeah.
had a similar quote when he left LA Galaxy. I came, I saw, I conquered. They took out a whole page in the newspaper, I remember, when Ibra signed to MLS, and of course that was...
Oh, he took the whole page out in the paper.
He took the whole page out in the paper, and of course, for good reason. It was Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Now, when you look at Ibra's career, I almost forget the amount of clubs that he played for. He started his career with Malmo, and then moved to Ajax, of course, and we've seen a lot of his highlights from Ajax. That's when he really started to develop as a footballer and really
Maybe his best goal ever came at Ajax,
Yeah.
actually, when he went through the whole team.
Yeah. One of the best goals ever in football.
Yeah.
Made the switch from Ajax to Juventus. This was the big one, Juventus to Inter. And he's talked about that, and he talked about that move, about how many enemies he made because he's switching, of course, to one of the rival crowds. But that was Zlatan. Zlatan was the guy who wasn't afraid to go and stir the pot a little bit because he thinks he's bigger than the game. So you appreciate that. But then you also have Barcelona in between then, and then you go from Inter to AC Milan, back to Barcelona, PSG's stops along the way, Man United, LA Galaxy, and then, of course, returns to Milan, and that's where he finishes up his career.
I mean, and it's amazing that Barcelona stop was the one stop that didn't really work out because he hated Pep, and they just did not get on at all. In fact, he said in his book that he's the one coach he would have punched out and came close to punching him out. And this guy's a black belt in
Taekwondo,
right? Yeah. He actually is tough as nails. But it didn't really work out there. But he still scored, I think, 14 goals that year in the league. Right? It still wasn't a disaster. He's one of those guys. I mean, his bravado and his personality almost transcended him as the footballer, but he was one of the great footballers of this generation. At his best, he was so tough to handle. And we talked about Erling Haaland and the way he plays the game, how big he is and imposing. And Ibra was very similar to that and did it for 22 years.
Yeah, and Ibra had the skill too.
Yeah.
He had the skill. Like, his dribbling abilities, for someone his size, I don't know if we've ever seen it. Like, he's class, of course, and he had the ability to, like, when you think about a striker, you're often like, oh, they need service in order to get the best out of them. Zlatan was able to do a lot of it himself. He was actually a game breaker, and of course, one goal we'll always remember is that goal against England. I think it was a Nations League match.
Incredible.
So I think it was a friendly, but the bicycle kick over his head, running away from the keeper, or running away from goal. Yeah, over Joe Hart. That was one of the best goals ever. And you can go through Zlatan's career and you can find a lot of examples of just unbelievable, jaw-dropping moments that made Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and nothing more than, as you pointed out off the top, the character and the persona of Zlatan, which I don't think anyone's going to be able to replicate.
He had like a likable arrogance, which is incredible. It's very difficult to be arrogant, but so likable, because it was all tongue-in-cheek, wasn't it? It was always fun, I think. So,
do you think that's actually who he is? Or do you think
You've read
played
his
into
book,
that
right?
character?
Yeah, no, I think he played into it for sure.
Yeah.
It was his brand.
Yeah.
But he's very confident. You read his biography, and it's all about him everywhere, and so it should be his biography, right? But there is that human element to that authenticity you find in the book, which I think is a bit more real than the brand Ibra. But we'll see what he does now, right? Media is just sitting there for him if he wants it, of course. But I got a feeling he loves the sport, right? And sometimes these guys, that's lost, how much they genuinely need the game of football. Could he coach? I don't know about that. But we haven't seen the last of Ibra.
I'd love to see him in the media. I would love to see him as an analyst but I do wonder, Lo, would that be good for his brand? Putting him out there, exposing him as much as...
Would it become too much? If this is a brand, it's like,
exactly.
Okay, bro, we get the shtick, you know.
Yeah.
It's like Roy Kent, going back to Ted Lasso. Love the character. Couldn't be the main character. Had to be the side character.
Yeah, had to, for
right?
sure. What if they do a spinoff? Would you watch a Roy Kent spinoff?
That is something we have to deep dive on
We have
at
to
some
deep
point
dive
this summer.
into.
We'll
Now-
do a Ted Lasso episode of 442 at some point.
We have to.
Yeah, we should do that.
Would you watch...
I would give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you watch a Zlatan media spinoff?
Yes.
You have to.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
As much as I'm criticizing it, it would be must-watch TV.
Got to move on here. Mikey, your final headline here is, and I love this one, Liverpool reach full agreement to sign McAllister from Brighton for, quote, way less than 60 million.
Yeah, so even Fabrizio Romano today is tweeting out that it's actually less than the 45 or 50 million that's being reported. That's what his release clause is, even less than that. So when you talk about good business in the transfer window, I think we could circle back to this conversation that we're having here about Alexis Mac Allister, and we can say that it's probably going to be one of the best pieces of business in the transfer window as a whole. What a fantastic get for Liverpool,
I mean,
James.
what's he worth, do you think? I mean, if he is full value, he's close to 100 million. He's a World Cup winner. He dominated with Brighton, which was, as we discussed, one of the better playing football teams in Europe this season. He's
wore
done
the
it for
number
a couple
10
of years
shirt
now.
for
More
them.
than number 10, yeah. And he's just what Liverpool need as well. They've got to reinvent that midfield. And he'll walk into that starting spot. And I saw some stats. He's number one above every other Liverpool midfielder this season in every meaningful stat. That's how good he is. So, yeah, you get him for under 60 million, 45 million. That is a steal. That reminds me of Haaland for 58 last year.
Yeah,
right?
that's the same type of vibe I'm getting. 24
thinking,
years old.
Brighton, what are you doing? Why would he get that deal? At the same time, why is he going... Listen, it's a huge club, don't get me wrong, but it's not Champions League football next year.
That's the thing.
For sure, he's been offered opportunities
Apparently
to go
United
to
were
Champions League.
interested, and he chose Liverpool. Kind of Cody Gakpo kind of vibes, man.
Maybe, yeah. Well, the badge means a lot, right, the crest, and so does Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
Mason Mount's going to United, or so we hear. Would you rather have Mount or McAllister in that midfield?
Ooh, I think for Manchester United, I think Mason Mount, just because he can play a bunch of different positions and play a bunch of different roles, and he's proven it, I think, for longer in the Premier League. But I wouldn't be upset if I'm getting Alexis Mac Allister, of course. Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tough call. What if Alexis Mac Allister is the most prominent and biggest signing Liverpool does this transfer window? Are you happy with that?
Most prominent?
Like the biggest signing.
Given that there's no Champions League football, yeah, I am. I think they're going to use their scout network and get some lesser known players who could be very, very good. But as far as a name value, I don't see anyone bigger coming at this point. And I'm fine with that as a Reds fan. It's going to be a bit of a rebuild this year with Europa League football. Anyway, we're out of time. Sorry, I know you want to get to
I was going to shout out James Milner going the other way.
Yeah, that's right. All right, listen, that's Room 442. It's a busy, busy week. The silly season is very much upon us, and we'll have you covered every day. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.